It was reported earlier today that the WBC ordered Canelo Alvarez to fight Avni, a fighter that's coming off a loss. Since then, the WBC received a whole lot of backlash for making such a decision. Therefore, in order to save face, the WBC told the truth on Canelo Alvarez. The WBC stated, Canelo Alvarez wasn't ordered to fight Avni. He requested it. Now, the WBC president Suleiman made those comments in order to save face. But I'm afraid he exposed the WBC in the process, the World Boxing Corruption Organization that's known for we be cheating. Now, first things first. Who is the president, Suleiman or Canelo Alvarez? That's the $1 million question. How is Canelo Alvarez requesting the WBC to do something, and that's exactly what they do? Canelo Alvarez requested the French fries title to avoid Charlo, and that's exactly what the WBC delivered. Canelo told them, I don't want to face my mandatories. So they made the French fries title, where it's a trophy, a title you can't win nor lose, according to the WBC president. You don't have mandatories for the French fries title. It's simply a trophy. It's not a belt. It's not a championship. That's verbatim out of Suleiman's own mouth. So if you haven't got the memo, it's a witness protection belt for fighters that have the complexion for the protection. And Canelo Alvarez definitely have the complexion for the connection. I mean, all you have to do is look at Canelo. He looked like he's Irish when he's Mexican. So if you want to get more informed on the WBC French fries title, I'm going to leave the link in the comment section below. I already made a video exposing the WBC for being the World Boxing Corruption Organization. So the point is, Canelo Alvarez purchased a title from the WBC. He did not win it. He purchased it in order to avoid a fighter on the coincidental list. And you best believe it's not a coincidence. Because just like Canelo purchased the title to avoid Charlo, Lomachenko did the same thing at 135 in order to avoid Devin Haney. Fast forward a year later, now Canelo Alvarez is requesting the WBC to order a fight between him and a fighter that's coming off a loss to derail. The same fighter Benavidez beat to win the world title back. So the $1 million question have to be raised. Who owns the WBC? Is it Suleiman or Canelo Alvarez, the fighter? Everybody loves to talk about how Canelo Alvarez is such a boss. He signed the biggest contract with DAZN, but DAZN can't force him to fight anybody because he his own boss. So in other words, he can make the best fights available. If he wants to fight Andre tomorrow, he can make it happen. If he wants to fight Charlo tomorrow, he can make it happen. If he wants to fight Benavidez tomorrow for the vacant strap at 168, he can make it happen. But what he chooses to do instead with his leverage, he requests the WBC to order a fight between him and a fighter that's coming off a loss, Ivan, who just 2 fights ago, he fought a guy with 31 losses and only 3 wins. This is exactly why Canelo Alvarez is destroying his legacy with his own hands. And the WBC was receiving so much backlash for making such a decision. So they chose to throw Canelo Alvarez under the bus and blame on Canelo. But I'm afraid they exposed themselves in the process, because you guys don't have to listen to Canelo Alvarez. Canelo Alvarez is not your boss. So why is you guys doing exactly what Canelo Alvarez requested? Like Canelo is the general and you guys are the soldiers. Or should I say, like Canelo Alvarez is the pimp and the WBC is the prostitute. And I think that's a better comparison because not too long ago, Canelo Alvarez disrespected the WBC strap. Matter of fact, he threw it to the trash when they requested him to fight Gennady Golovkin at the time, when Gennady Golovkin haven't looked exposed. But as soon as Gennady Golovkin looked exposed, Canelo ran to fight him. Then in the rematch, he takes steroids and fails 2 drug tests where the WBC stood next to Canelo Alvarez and condoned a cheater for cheating, claiming he's innocent, just like they did with Margarito, Jimenez, and Tyson Fury. Then fast forward a year later, Canelo Alvarez requests the French Fries title in order to avoid his mandatory Charlo. And that's exactly what the WBC delivers. And now today, Canelo Alvarez requests for the WBC to order a fight between him and a fighter coming off a loss, Ivan. And that's exactly what the WBC delivers. How ironic is that? So if you may wonder why that is because money makes the world turn, especially coming from a guy that has the complexion for the connection. That's exactly why I told you all the WBC is acting like Canelo Alvarez prostitute, because whatever he requests, whatever he tried to purchase, that's exactly what they deliver, regardless if Canelo Alvarez disrespected the WBC. Because just like a prostitute, as long as you throw money their way, they will show you love. And that's how the WBC is behaving toward Canelo Alvarez. They willing to do whatever it takes to be on Canelo Alvarez's good side. So, with that being stated, I don't see the WBC making the right decision, telling Canelo Alvarez, absolutely not. You're going to have to face somebody legit, like Benavidez himself. We're going to order the fight between you and Benavidez. That would have been justifiable. That would have been A-okay. But just like back at 154, when both Andrade and Charlo were champions, Andrade called out Canelo Alvarez, who wasn't a champion at the time. He called Canelo Alvarez the B word. He told him he don't have no cojones. He's just a puta, according to Andrade. He even questioned Canelo Alvarez's heritage, claiming that Canelo is not Mexican. He's Irish. He's faking it for clout. So Andrade did all of that. And guess what Canelo Alvarez do? He proved Andrade right by avoiding Andrade, proving that he has no cojones. I mean, you guys have to keep in mind, Andrade made the phrase popular that Canelo doesn't have any cojones. I didn't even know what cojones meant. I had to Google it, which I found out Canelo Alvarez really didn't have any cojones, because as soon as Andrade vacated the strap, Canelo Alvarez fought Smith for it. I guess he requested the WBO to make the fight happen between him and Smith. But when Andrade had the strap, he never wanted to fight for that strap. He ignored Andrade, and he's still ignoring him to this day. And that's exactly what Canelo Alvarez did when it comes to the WBC. Funny how history repeats itself. I mean, when Benavidez had the WBC strap before he got stripped of the title because he couldn't make the weight for the first time in his career, it don't matter what Benavidez did, trying to get Canelo Alvarez to respond, to no prevail or any success. Benavidez called out Canelo on more than one occasion respectfully on Dante's radio show, on Showtime, on PBC, and all Canelo Alvarez said in return, I don't want to face my own people from Mexico City, which is so hypocritical to say the least. Because Canelo Alvarez fought more than one Hispanic fighter on more than one occasion, even after fame, after his biggest fight with Floyd Money Mayweather, after taking a huge capital L. He fought Angulo, and Angulo was Mexican. He even fought Lopez, a 140-pounder that had to move up 2 weight divisions to fight Canelo Alvarez at 154. So I guess what Canelo Alvarez meant, I don't want to face Mexican fighters that could actually fight and they are elite in my own division. I'd rather cherry pick the ones that can fight or not as gifted. That's what Canelo Alvarez truly meant when he made those comments. I mean, you guys have to remember, it's Canelo Alvarez who's responsible for stopping the tradition of the Mexican wars between the best elite fighters from Mexico. Where is Canelo Alvarez's version of Barrera Morales, Salido Martinez, and the list goes on and on and on? So if it is true, Canelo Alvarez don't want to face his people, he'd rather them fight the outsiders instead. If it's actually true, I could respect that. But when you fight the Lopez of the world, when you fight the Angulos of the world, when you fight Chavez Jr., but you won't fight Benavidez, that's when it's disrespectful. That's when you're disrespecting your own heritage and the tradition of your own people. Because you're trying to make a fool out of your fans claiming that you won't fight Hispanic fighters, but you're going to fight Chavez and Angulo. The fighters you know 1,000% you're going to win the fight. But when it's a 50-50 fight, where Benavidez have a great chance of winning, then Canelo Alvarez want to bring out excuse number 999. Now Canelo Alvarez want to lie instead and bring up the oldest excuse in the book that been exposed on more than one occasion. That is so dusty we have to brush off the excuse before talking about it. And that's why Canelo Alvarez fans running out of excuses for Canelo. So with that being stated, Canelo Alvarez, he destroying his own legacy with his own hand. And the WBC is destroying their own brand with their own hands. Delivering everything Canelo Alvarez is requesting, all because he's paying them the right amount of money. Which that has to stop in the sport of boxing, because in order for the sport of boxing to live on and be the great sport that it once was, the best have to fight the best. So Canelo Alvarez, he wants to claim he pound for pound #1, but he never fights the #1 guy in his division. At 154, he ducked Charlo and Andre. At 160, he's ducking Charlo and Andre still. At 168, he's ducking Benavidez. He's ducking Caleb Plant. And the list goes on and on and on. At 175, he's ducking every single competition. That's tough. So the point is, how you claim you pound for pound #1 when you're not willing to fight the best in or around your division? And you rather cherry pick a fighter coming off a loss instead by requesting the WBC to make the fight happen, which that's exactly what the WBC does. So the question has to be raised. Who is the organization? Is it Canelo Alvarez or is it the WBC? Since when a fighter could request the organization to make a fight happen that he wants? A fight that he requests in particular against a particular fighter, such as Avni. See, it's A-okay if Canelo Alvarez wanted to fight Benavidez, because Benavidez was the champion and he got stripped of his title. So that would have had made sense. But to request Avni, a fighter coming off a loss, that lost on more than one occasion, that got beat up by Banks Jr., that not too long ago, I believe a fight or two ago, he fought a guy with 31 losses and 3 wins. That's the guy Canelo Alvarez want to fight next. Meanwhile, Errol Spence is coming off a car accident where he survived in a miracle way and he fighting Danny Garcia. Charlo is fighting Rosario in a unification bout. Big Charlo is fighting Deryachenko, the same guy Canelo Alvarez avoided by giving up his IBF strap in order to avoid his mandatory Deryachenko. So the point is, Canelo Alvarez uses his leverage against the corrupted organizations in the sport of boxing not to make the best fights available, however, to cherry pick instead, and that have been exposed by the WBC president Suleiman himself. See, Suleiman stated that's not what the WBC wanted, that's what Canelo Alvarez wanted. But I'm afraid that made matter worse, because that didn't just tell us that Canelo Alvarez is cherry picking his whole career. That also told us that the WBC is the witness protection plan for Canelo Alvarez. They mapped out a plan for Canelo Alvarez to avoid the best in the game, from the Benavidez, the Caleb Plants, Charlos, Andres, and the list goes on and on and on. So the issue is with Canelo and the WBC. The corruption exists due to the World Boxing Corruption Organization, the WBC, that allow fighters to cheat. As long as you have the complexion for the protection, then you're going to be well connected when it comes to the Hope Insurance benefits. That's better than Geico. So with that being stated, the issue with boxing is the corruption that exists in it. And one of the biggest corrupted organizations is the World Boxing Corruption Organization, the WBC, that's known for we be cheating. Something have to be done on this. Like I said, I did my job exposing the double standards, the hypocrisy, and the contradictions, the lies by the WBC. Keep in mind, this is actually the WBC trying to justify the corruption that they are doing. This is not a new media person interviewing the WBC, exposing them in the process, asking them the tough questions. This is actually old media trying to get the WBC to justify the corruption that exists in the sport of boxing because of them. But in the process, they ended up exposing themselves and Canelo Alvarez. With that being stated, I already talked about most of these topics on Split Decision, episode 50. I'm also going to dive in deeper on this topic in particular on Boxing Hood episode 2. So be on the lookout for the cookout. Click on the notification bell to get notified every time I post or go live. So with that being stated, drop your comments below. What is y'all take on the World Boxing Corruption Organization, aka We Be Cheating, the WBC? So subscribe below if you're trying to get smarter by the minute. If you're trying to get dumber by the second, don't listen to these decaps, the dumb casual ass fans / old media that don't know shit about boxing. Word to Roger Mayweather, may he rest in peace, inshallah. And shout out to Dante, my broski, my own Akhi, for being the entrepreneur of new media that I'm a part of. And click on the notification bell to get notified every time I post or go live on Split Decision. It's a boxing debate / talk show. Mixed, master, engineered, produced by yours truly, Akhi, the past, present, and future, undisputed pound for pound #1 when it comes to debating. They be treating Akhi like the Iron Mike of debating, the most feared. I got them shook. They're scared to look every time Akhi's on TV, because I always have bad news for these decafs. And you know their kryptonite is the truth. And last but not least, shout out to every single one of my Akhis, my bro skis. Akhi stand for my brother, and this is the Boxing Hood of Boxing, the Brotherhood of Boxing. And to be continued on the next episode of Akhi Ak TV. Peace, and we out here.